The Black Dahlia, Hollywood's darkest mystery, the city of angels, the city of dreams. But beneath the glittering lights of Hollywood, darkness festers. Secrets lurk in the shadows. And on some nights, they rise to the surface, demanding to be seen. The 15th of January, 1947. The morning begins like any other. The streets of Los Angeles hum with the promise of a new day. The air is crisp, the city stretching awake, and then a scream. A mother, walking with her young daughter, freezes in horror. Her breath catches, her heart pounds. Just a few feet away, something pale lies in the grass, something that doesn't belong. At first glance, it seems like a discarded mannequin, its limbs too still, too perfect. But as she steps closer, her stomach lurks. This is no mannequin, it is a woman. A young woman. Her body is severed in two, the halves placed neatly in the dirt. There is no blood. Her skin, smooth and ghostly white, has been scrubbed clean. Her eyes stare lifelessly into the sky, and her lips slashed from ear to ear in a grotesque, permanent smile. This is the story of Elizabeth Short, a woman whose beauty became her curse, a name forever etched in the annals of crime history. A murder so brutal that it has haunted Hollywood for over 75 years. A case that remains unsolved to this day. And the deeper we go, the darker it gets. A dreamer in a city of illusions. Elizabeth Short was born on the 29th of July, 1924 in Boston, Massachusetts, the third of 5 daughters. She was raised by her mother after her father vanished during the Great Depression. For years, she believed he was dead until he resurfaced in California, very much alive. A betrayal, a wound that never quite healed. But Elizabeth was not the kind to dwell on sadness. She was a dreamer, a romantic. She longed for something more a life filled with beauty, adventure, and love. Hollywood called to her like a siren song, the silver screen, the dazzling lights, the promise that anyone could become a star. And so, at 19, she packed her bags and set off for California. She was striking. Raven black hair, porcelain skin, eyes as deep and mysterious as the ocean. She turned heads wherever she went. Men were drawn to her. Women envied her. But behind the glamour, there was struggle. Hollywood was not a fairy tale. It was a battlefield. And Elizabeth was a lone soldier fighting to survive. She took whatever work she could find. Waitressing, modeling, living in cheap apartments and borrowed rooms. She moved from place to place, never staying too long. She was a mystery even in life, always just out of reach. Some say she was chasing fame, others say she was running from something. Perhaps both are true. A shadow follows. The 9th of January, 1947. The last day anyone saw Elizabeth Short alive. She was spotted at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Witnesses recall her sitting alone in the lobby, dressed in a sleek black suit with a green scarf draped around her neck. She looked anxious, kept glancing at the clock, as if she was waiting for someone. Who was she expecting? A lover? A friend? Or someone far more dangerous? No one knows for sure. But what we do know is that after that night, Elizabeth Short disappeared. For 6 days, she was nowhere to be found. No calls, no letters, no trace. And then, on the morning of the 15th of January, she reappeared. But not as the hopeful young woman searching for a dream. She reappeared as a lifeless corpse, displayed like a cruel work of art. A message in blood. What kind of mind commits such an act? Elizabeth Short's body was a horror beyond comprehension. She had been cut in half, her organs removed, her blood completely drained. Her killer had taken the time to clean her body, leaving behind no trace of where the murder had occurred. But the most haunting detail? Her face. Her mouth had been carved into a Glasgow smile, a permanent mocking grin. This was not a crime of passion. This was something colder, more calculated. A message. But to whom? And what did it mean? Lies, secrets, and dead ends. The LAPD launched one of the largest investigations in history. They questioned over 150 suspects, including doctors, military officers, and Hollywood insiders. One name stood out: Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician with disturbing ties to the case. His own son, Steve Hodel, later accused him of the murder, uncovering chilling evidence in old family recordings. But Hodel was not the only suspect. There were others. A bellhop with a violent past, a club owner with connections to the criminal underworld. The list went on. Over 50 people falsely confessed, muddying the waters. The truth was slipping through their fingers. And then the case went cold. The monster in the shadows. Who killed Elizabeth Short? Some believe the murderer was a doctor, skilled in anatomy. Others suspect a Hollywood cover-up, a powerful figure silencing a woman who knew too much. Or was it something worse? A serial predator who had done this before and would do it again. Theories abound, but the truth remains buried. The mystery endures. The Black Dahlia. A name whispered in the corridors of crime history. A face forever frozen in horror. A case that will never be solved. And somewhere, in the shadows of Hollywood, her killer may still be watching, waiting, smiling. The disappearance of Brian Schaefer, a true crime mystery. The last night, the neon lights of the ugly Tuna Saloona flickered against the dark Columbus skyline, casting eerie reflections on the rain-slicked pavement. It was the 31st of March, 2006, a night like any other, but one that would soon become the center of a chilling mystery. Brian Schaefer, a 27-year-old medical student, walked into the bar with his friends, laughing and carefree. He had just finished his exams and was looking forward to a well-deserved spring break trip with his girlfriend. The bar buzzed with energy, filled with college students unwinding from a long week. Hours passed. Brian was seen chatting, drinking, and even flirting with two women near the entrance. Surveillance footage captured his every move until it didn't. Somewhere between the last recorded moment and the dawn of the 1st of April, Brian Schaefer vanished without a trace. No one saw him leave. The cameras at the entrance never caught him exiting. It was as if he had simply ceased to exist. His friends assumed he had gone home, but when he failed to answer his phone the next day, concern turned to panic. A desperate search began that would leave more questions than answers. The investigation begins. The police were called in almost immediately after Brian's disappearance was reported. Officers reviewed the surveillance footage again and again, hoping to catch something they had missed. The footage showed Brian entering the bar, socializing, moving around but never leaving. Every exit was covered by cameras, yet there was no trace of him leaving the establishment. Investigators combed through the area, interviewing bartenders, patrons, and staff. No one remembered seeing Brian after a certain point in the night. His phone records showed no activity after the last text to his girlfriend, and his bank account remained untouched. It was as if he had been swallowed by the night itself. Detectives started exploring theories. Had Brian walked out unnoticed through a hidden exit or maintenance door? Could he have met with foul play? His friends and family were interviewed multiple times, but no one could provide any solid leads. Theories and speculations. As time passed, multiple theories emerged. Some believed Brian had staged his own disappearance, perhaps unable to cope with the recent loss of his mother. Others thought he may have met with an accident, possibly falling into a construction site or an underground tunnel. One chilling theory suggested that Brian had been targeted by someone inside the bar. Did someone spike his drink? Was there an altercation that turned deadly? The lack of evidence made it nearly impossible to confirm any single theory. Meanwhile, his girlfriend continued calling his phone daily. Strangely, at one point, the call rang several times before going to voicemail, a sign that the phone was still active. However, the signal was too weak to trace, leaving yet another eerie mystery. Dead ends and unanswered questions. Years passed with no solid leads. Despite nationwide coverage and an extensive search, Brian Schaefer's case remained cold. Online forums and armchair detectives continued discussing theories, but no new evidence surfaced. Brian's father, who had tirelessly searched for his son, tragically passed away in a freak accident. Many saw this as a cruel twist of fate, another piece of the puzzle lost forever. Despite countless searches, investigations, and public appeals, Brian's disappearance remains one of the most baffling unsolved cases in modern history. Was he the victim of a perfect crime, or did he simply vanish into the unknown? The family's endless search. Brian's family, especially his father, Randy Schaffer, never gave up hope. Despite the lack of new leads, he continued to post updates, distribute flyers, and work closely with authorities. The grief of losing both his wife and son within such a short span took a visible toll on him. When Randy tragically passed away in 2008 due to a storm accident, the case took an even darker turn. Many wondered if he knew something more than he had shared. His death left Brian's brother, Derek, as the last surviving immediate family member. Derek remained silent for the most part, though he occasionally shared his frustration with the lack of answers. The digital detectives. In the age of the internet, true crime forums, podcasts, and YouTube channels picked up Brian's case. Digital detectives analyzed every detail, offering theories ranging from conspiracy-level cover-ups to the idea that Brian had started a new life elsewhere. Some internet sleuths pointed out an unconfirmed sighting of someone resembling Brian in Mexico. Others insisted he had somehow slipped past security cameras through an unknown exit. With each new idea, the mystery only deepened. Years later, authorities conducted another deep dive into the case, re-examining evidence with new technology. Advanced facial recognition and data analysis provided a few possible leads, but nothing concrete. They also interviewed former staff members of the Ugly Tuna Saloon once more, hoping that time had loosened lips. However, no one provided anything different from what was already known. Despite extensive efforts, Brian Schaefer's case remains open and unsolved. Did he simply walk away from his life? Or was he the victim of a carefully orchestrated crime? The lack of closure haunts his friends, family, and countless true crime enthusiasts to this day. Perhaps one day, new evidence will surface. Until then, the disappearance of Brian Schaefer remains one of the most perplexing true crime cases in modern history.